something. Never in my entire life did I ever think that I would go into something like sales. If you just stick with it past the first 6 or 12 months, you will hockey stick like the greatest achievements. Of course, I thought, I don't need no stinking AI platform to make me a good salesperson. Hey, Mr. Prospect, I'd like you to say yes today. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. The good news is you don't get dumber. You just keep getting smarter and smarter and smarter.
Hi everyone, Serena Diaco here, and welcome back to The Digest by AD Mortgage, your trusted source for insights into the mortgage industry. Today, we're talking about something a little different. Careers. The mortgage market moves in cycles, but careers in this industry are built over decades. Understanding how to grow through those cycles is what separates the short-term players from the long-term professionals. Joining us today is Gina Fleitman, founder, sales strategist, and Director of Sales and Marketing at Florida Atlantic University. Gina has built sales and marketing programs from scratch across multiple industries, and now teaches the next generation of professionals how to grow and lead. Gina will share her thoughts on what it really takes to build a sustainable career, the skills that matter most, the habits that compound over time, and the mindset that helps professionals grow even in cyclical markets. Let's get into it. Hi, Gina. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So let's jump into it. My first question is, what experiences have you had that really shaped your long-term career path?
I got to tell you, I absolutely love that question. So picture this. My undergraduate degree was in psychology and technical writing and editing. And I was looking at several possible career paths. Certainly one was a PhD in English romantic poetry. That was a thought. Or I would be a clinical psychologist. You know, I'd be telling people, lie down on my couch and tell me why you hated your mother. You know, something like that. I was sure that that was going to be my career path. Or when I was a kid, I wanted to be the great American writer. But what's intriguing is that although I thought that's what my future would be, my sophomore year, I took a work-study job because it was the only thing available at the time that I applied. And that work-study job became an internship. What I was doing and the field that I was in had absolutely nothing to do with anything that I thought was going to be my future. I was working for a nonprofit trade association in the industry of painting structural steel. Trust me, nobody, wakes up as a child saying, I want to be in the painting coatings industry for structural steel. But the opportunity presented itself and I fell in love. I fell in love with the work that I was doing. I fell in love with the industry. And my senior year, my boss who I had been working with thought, let's start a company. I co-founded my first startup my senior year of my undergraduate career. And I thought that I would be doing writing. We were starting a publishing company. But my boss looked at me and he said, oh, no. There's a salesperson in there. Now, let me tell you something. Never in my entire life did I ever think that I would go into something like sales. An opportunity presented itself and I got encouragement from someone that I respected very much. And lo and behold, it turned into an amazing career. I spent 25 years as the vice president, sales and marketing, doing 10 more startups in the same industry and falling head over heels in love with sales. And so now when I look at undergraduates and I see them say, oh, well, I never thought about a career in sales, or I never thought about mortgage, I want to go into medical device sales, all I can think about is, an opportunity is going to present itself to you, and it's going to be something that you never dreamed was where you were meant to be. But if you just open yourself up to it and give it a chance, my Lord, it can turn into an incredibly amazing and fulfilling career for you.
So Gina, when someone's entering a new industry like yourself, however many years ago when you entered sales for the first time, right? 20 years ago. What is mostly underestimated and what's the hardest part in that first year?
Speaking from the heart, it's different for young people today than it was when I was entering the industry so long ago. One of the trends that I see with folks that are coming out of school is they're very achievement oriented and they want to be successful, but they want to be successful right away. And so if they don't see outstanding returns, the moral equivalent of an A+ on my report card, in my first 6 or 12 months, looking through their eyes, that they're exceedingly disappointed and they will leave and go somewhere else thinking that they will achieve success more quickly. It's amazing how if you just stick with it, especially in a sale, oh my God, so much more so in a sales position, if you just stick with it, past the first 6 or 12 months, you will hockey stick. Like the greatest achievements, the biggest success, the most lucrative returns, if you want to look at it that way, are not expected to come in that first 6 or 12 months. You're still just learning. And I know that sometimes can be a hard message for young people because they just want to hit the ground running and just boom, stars and stripes forever in the Hallelujah chorus. And you need to be comfortable that the best success is not going to happen in that first 6 months, probably not in that 12 months. When I look at my own experience, I expected a lot from myself, the last sales job that I had. I mean, I'd been at this for a very long time. But when I look back at it right now, I'm so pleased to recognize that the success that I achieved in my second year, in my third year, and then in my fourth year, #1 on the team, eclipsing everybody. But I needed to put in that first year, then that second year, then that third year in order to recognize those kinds of results. And so my message to young people, especially who may be discouraged in the first 6 or 12 months, is the best stuff comes to you after you get better at it. And you just need to give yourself a little more time in order to see that it's success. Stick with it, build your territory, learn the pitch, learn the pain points of the customers, have more and more customer stories to be able to tell, hey, the last time I talked to somebody like you, this is what they were feeling, and then this is what they found. You don't get that in 6 months. You don't get that in 12 months. But by God, you're a Bible of stories like that by the time you hit year 2 or year 3. So folks who are in your first 6 or 12 months, keep at it and look how smart you're going to get and how much success that's going to bring you.
What are some career paths people don't realize early on, and how can those career paths lead you into training and leadership?
Oh, I think without a doubt that sales is one of the top careers that people just don't realize. What happens, and it's perfectly cool, is they fall in love with a particular discipline or area of study, and they don't realize that there's a little salesperson inside their heart. And it takes time, or it takes a great mentor who's going to look at them and say, what you need to be doing is be in the industry, the area of study that fascinates you. But I'm sure, Mr. Student, you didn't think about this. Go at it through the sales door, because you do have those skills, those disciplines, those attitudes, those beliefs and behaviors that fit so beautifully well with a sales career. So I love looking at students who have a passion for a given field of study and saying to them, that's terrific. Have you considered selling in that industry? Because the beauty of it is if you understand the space that you're in, so whether it's finance or engineering, you gain so much more credibility and trust with the person that you're talking to. But then you have those sales skills that make you outstanding at representing a product or a service that works in that industry. And the beautiful thing about sales is it is a gorgeous jumping space to other positions within a company. For example, if you're terrific at sales, perhaps it is a good thing for you to go into training, especially if you were someone who had to learn how to sell. What we've seen is somebody who's like unnatural isn't always the best trainer because it just came naturally to them. But somebody who's had to work at it and found themselves terrific at sales becomes awesome at training. But leadership is a monster doorway for someone who is in a sales career. I think that I can't quote the data specifically, but the percentage of CEOs who started in sales is remarkable if you're a Shark Tank fan. For example, my God, you can just run down your favorite list from Barbara Corcoran to Damon to Mark Cuban, and they all started in sales. Sales is gorgeous because you learn the clientele. You learn exactly who the target market is. You become deeply familiar with the problems that they face, which helps you from product management to leadership because now you can help design products. But it's also a terrific place for leadership because you've seen all phases of it. You know what the clients are, you know what their pain points are, and you deeply understand how the company's solutions solve those problems. It's outstanding for a jumping board into C-level leadership.
I felt like that whole time you were describing me, I don't know if you know my story, but I started off in sales and then I moved to training as well after successful years in sales. So everything you said was a fact. I learned pain points. I learned knowledge. I did have to work a little bit at sales. I wouldn't say I was like a natural at sales. And then there was a perfect space for me in training our sales team.
And it becomes so fulfilling too,
Yes.
because sometimes I think there's nothing more fulfilling than coaching, than your ability to take another person from here to here and then watch them blossom in that success. Sales is fulfilling because, hey, I made a deal, I made a close. But I have to tell you, there's times when I spent so many years as a sales manager, spent so many years training, coaching, mentoring, and truly the joy that you get when your rep comes into your office and they're on fire and their eyes are as big as pie plates because they just closed a deal based on some coaching that you gave them. It's an extraordinary feeling. So it's a beautiful place for salespeople to go.
From your perspective as an instructor, what really separates those from growth and those who stall out? And do you see that certain skills are trainable, or do you see that most are innate?
I think that the biggest thing that makes young people stall out especially is lack of patience, that they've got to stick with it long enough to get good. Another thing is a natural curiosity. I think that if you have a natural curiosity, that will keep pushing you to do better. And that's where it's really an attitude thing, I'm afraid, that desire to get 1% better every day. When I was getting my MBA program, we called it a growth mindset. And we had to read a book. I think we had like a 50-page book to read like the day before orientation on growth mindset. And that book took a position that there are people who have the growth mindset where they want to get better every day and they want to learn things, and that's what excites them. And then there are people, and I think it's probably people who are more advanced in their career, that have kind of shut down that growth mindset. So I think if you have a growth mindset, it's far less likely that you're going to stall out. Where I came from, and I had a very expensive training in sales. And this was after I already thought I was God's gift to sales, right? And then I was introduced to a training program, and I won't be giving it here because that would be a commercial for it. But after investing $40,000 for me and my team, I embraced an incredible body of knowledge. And one of the cornerstones of that body of knowledge is that great salespeople, it's BAT. You need to have BAT, and that's behaviors, attitudes, and techniques. All three are necessary. The beautiful thing about techniques is they can be taught. That's why we spent $40,000 on sales training. We were taught those techniques. And then I, as the sales manager, it was on me to, I hate to use the word enforce, but it's kind of the word that comes to mind, to assure that those techniques were being practiced in the form of behaviors. So I can control techniques by teaching them. I can control behaviors as sales manager by managing for them. But attitude, I'm afraid you have to hire for it. So qualities like enthusiasm, being competitive or having an achievement orientation, high EQ, having empathy, being able to read the room. These are things I'm afraid that they're attitudes. They can't be taught. And so when I teach my sales management class, in fact, we made a list of them in class last week of all of these things that are innate, attitude, whatever you want to call them, they come from within. And I sort of challenged the classroom. I said, if what we're talking about is hiring for these things, you can't teach them. You have to hire for them. I asked them, come up with interview questions, come up with scenarios, come up with role plays, come up with anything you can to tell me how to interview for these innate gifts that someone comes in with or they don't, and they can't be taught, and yet they make all of the difference. The behaviors and the techniques aren't good. It's a triangle. The behaviors and the techniques aren't going to work without the attitude to power them.
Business is more tech-driven than ever now. We're talking about skills and abilities, behaviors, attitudes. But now with all of this tech, how has this changed from 10 years ago to now?
Let's talk about a major wake-up call in my life. So I got my MBA very, very late in life. I got it in sustainability, which I'm very passionate about. It means the triple bottom line. Yes, we want profit, but we also want to protect people and we want to protect the planet. I'm so pleased to get a sales job, enterprise sales, with Roadrunner Recycling, which is a late-stage startup in the sustainability/tech space. And I'm sure that at my advanced age, armed with my MBA, I'm going to go in there and be God's gift, right? Let's talk about a humbling experience. In orientation, I was introduced to 4 brand new SaaS platforms that I had to be capable in order to just make a phone call or do anything at Roadrunner. A far more sophisticated integration of Salesforce, the CRM, that I had ever worked with before. I came home and cried like a little girl. Phoned my sister-in-law, who's just a little bit older than me. She also had just started an incredibly exciting new position and went home absolutely in tears because she could not figure out how to use the platforms that they were using there. So I would say that the need to be comfortable with technology is now a crucial part of taking a sales job. I'm happy to report that both myself and my sister-in-law gained great comfort in about 90 days with those platforms. But then while I was at my sales job, my enterprise sales job at Roadrunner, we adopted an AI platform. And of course, I thought, I don't need no stinking AI platform to make me a good salesperson. I know how to write an email. I know how to ask good questions. I know how to write a LinkedIn greeting. And then my teammates all started borrowing from AI, not to copy and paste, but simply to get a little background on what would make the perfect LinkedIn message, what would make the perfect email. And then our software was analyzing our phone calls. And gosh darn it, wouldn't you believe, I thought I was the perfect salesperson, but thanks to this AI platform, it was called Gong, it's terrific, I was able to see that my listening to talk ratio was not where it needed to be. And I know that there's a whole lot of different thoughts on that. Is it 80% listening and 20% talking, 60-40? The point is that every call I had afterwards, I could see how I did, and also how I was ranked on other important parameters for salesmanship. So, wow, I came away a believer. You know, even an old dog can learn some new tricks. And with AI becoming more and more critical, I think, to the way we all live and work, being comfortable with adopting software in general. I mean, I know how to make a phone call, right? I just didn't know how to use Salesforce. You know what? Technology is making all of our work better, more efficient, and the feedback that I was getting from AI on calls, priceless. I would say that the big difference now is certainly there's going to be a ton of technology in any job that you adopt. Fortunately, the young people, this is their mojo. I mean, they're comfortable with it. And I tell my students that. I'll say, God bless you, because you have grown up on AI, you're going to leapfrog some of us old dogs that are out there because, first of all, we either think we don't need it, which is certainly my attitude, or I think the more prevailing attitude is just not comfortable with it. And because you young people are excellent at technology in general, and certainly at AI, that will give you a big leg up in the market. So I think that the comfort with technology is here to stay, and it's something we didn't need as much 10 years ago.
Okay, so let's transition now from technology to communication. Where do beginners most often lose trust, and what could they possibly fix? Is it tone, confidence?
I would say there are 2 areas. A challenge we have with the undergrads that we have now, and the ones that will continue to come along, is that they're a generation that grew up looking at their phones and texting. And we find a consistent challenge to do professional communication. Another term, speaking to confidence, that another company told me about was executive presence. That these are things that tend to be challenges for young people these days. The 2 areas that I think they could work on, so I'm not going to give you one, I'm going to give you 2, in order to create trust, is first of all to practice active listening techniques. I have a whole lecture and an exercise where we do this. And what active listening means is, let's start with eye contact, right? They're so busy looking at their phones, but no, I need to have intense eye contact. I need to have my body posture show that I'm interested in what you're saying. I have to listen actively, which means instead of thinking about the next thing I'm going to say, which so many of us do, I do it too sometimes, it's as you're speaking, asking good, clarifying questions. So what I think I hear you say, or is this what you mean by that? And then paraphrasing in one's own head. I think that whenever someone shows that they're actively interested in what we're saying, that breeds liking and that breeds trust. The other one, which is so much simpler and which not just young people are guilty of, we all are, is the use of filler words. I think nothing screams, oh, I'm so sorry to say this, but lack of professionalism is, yeah, yeah. So we do an exercise in my classroom where I make everybody stand up and give a 1-minute speech, and I give them a few clues ahead of time about how to avoid filler words. But it's just such an earmark of lack of professional communication skills when we do that.
We have an AI platform here that grades calls, and one of the things it does do is pick up filler words, which maybe you'll have one every 10 seconds, 15 seconds, but an excessive amount will grade you low here. The ums, the likes, the yeahs, even taking like a pause, that's one thing that I've learned is just pausing before I say like or yeah, because the like or the yeah will come out if I don't pause.
That's actually one of the 2 techniques that I teach them is think about what you're going to say and then just say it, and then this isn't very elegant, but close your mouth. And the other one is to, and I just said to say the sentence in one entire breath without taking a pause. Because when we stop to take a breath and put in the gaps, oh my God, that's when the and like come out. It's tough. And I love that AI, actually Gong can do that too, that AI is gonna call that out. It's brilliant. This is why technology is our friend.
So for our viewers that want to build something sustainable, you've talked about patience, you've talked about avoiding that, instant gratification, sticking with it. What are some habits that our viewers can do week to week that can build that consistency?
Wow, that's hand in glove with that very expensive training that I was talking about before. I think that one of the mistakes that salespeople who haven't had a good deal of training or who are new, day to day, every day is different. It's consistency that compounds over time that's going to work. A salesman will have a great call because he was feeling great that day, and then bad calls just because they didn't have that morning mojo. That's not how it's done. What you need is a reproducible, sustainable sales system is what we called it in my training program. And what that means is, first of all, certainly your approach to every phone call, that you have a structure to how that call runs. There are certainly different structures out there. We teach spin, for example, in the classroom. Yes, the $40,000 I spent on training was the Sandler system, but the point is to have a reproducible series of steps that you take. So in the case of Sandler or spin, within that phone call, but then within how you manage your day. One of the rigors that works so well is having KPIs, key performance indicators that are based on activity. See, as salespeople, we can't control the outcome. I wish I could. Hey, Mr. Prospect, I'd like you to say yes today. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. But what I can control are my actions. So if my employer, as it was at Roadrunner, knew the KPIs, knew the key performance indicators for what it took to reach our quota. In our case, it was 30 dials, 20 emails, 10 LinkedIns. Rigorous study in our CRM indicated that if we could maintain that level of activity every day, then you're going to meet your goal. And it's true. So there's a discipline associated with that. But if you can just consistently manage how you manage a phone call. And then the other beauty is being willing to make adjustments. That was a religion for me in all of my sales positions. If you have a system, you run it, and then you see which parts are not yielding the results that you like, so you adjust that part, now you run that, and you just keep working towards a little bit of continuous improvement. But it is reproducible, and that's the point. Once you have a formula, okay, when I run a call that way, where I ask situation questions, problem questions, implication questions, needs, payoff, I'm going to end up here, I'm going to summarize. When you know where you're going and you see that it works, now it becomes reproducible. It's not just, I was feeling great that day. So consistency, but as my great band teacher, Dean Streeter, may he rest in peace, he would always say to us, Gina, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So setting up those KPIs and setting up that system and then being willing to tweak it. to make sure that you get the results that you want, and being consistent. I think that's what gets you through the tough times.
You've coached teams on these reproducible goals, right? They have just reproduced and reproduced. What is a common mindset trap they get stuck in, and how do we get them out of that?
I think the common answer would be being unable to handle the rejection. That certainly is common, but once you've got a seasoned sales rep, those mind traps still exist. And the seasoned sales rep knows that I'm in this job, K-N-O-W-S, knows that I'm in this job to get no's, N-O, apostrophe S. So once you get past that very beginning stage, a different mind trap sets in. And that's a sense that it's impossible for them to get where they want to be, to have the level of success as quickly as they expect it. It's a question I addressed earlier, that expectation that I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to hit my quota in no time flat. Oh my goodness, that's a terrible trap. It's not going to happen that way. It is going to take time. I keep coming back to that sense of patience. Patience for you to learn the industry, patience for you to learn the pitch, patience for you to learn the client's pain points. The thing is, you don't get dumber. That's what I want to tell folks who want to give up earlier. The good news is you don't get dumber. You just keep getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and so you need to stick with it. Another mind trap that they fall into is despair that they will never reach their quota. And that can be related to the first one. But I teach a sales management class, and so I'm very quick to get on my pulpit on what the role of the sales manager is. I would say that when your salespeople fall into that trap of thinking my quota is impossible, I'm just going to give up. It's on the sales manager, because I think it's a sales manager's job to some extent involve the salesperson in, this is how I came up with your quota. I know that every year when I set annual quotas or even monthly quotas, I would sit down with my rep and they would have always the same. They would be like a deer in the headlights saying, how am I going to reach this number? And I would say, I can see why you would think that, but let me show you where I was coming from. And then I would work through their territory with them, the key producers. And it was amazing to see their faces like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And by the time we're done, they can't wait to get out of the room and make a phone call, because now they see how that quota becomes achievable. And the other thing that the sales manager does is they provide training. So a salesperson with confidence is an unstoppable salesperson. And so much of our confidence comes from believing that we can do this. And a lot of that belief is going to come from providing training. And the other thing that I think that is a mind trap is this sense that you're a victim. And now we're going to attitude. So when we blame externally, oh, it wasn't my fault, this happened, or the client, my favorite, the client's stupid. Well, I guess I have a lot of stupid clients then. You can't externalize blame. I know this is very hard, especially for young people, but we teach mirror and window. When something goes wrong, when I don't make a sale, the first thing I have to do is look in that mirror and be willing to ask myself, what could I have done differently? Now, obviously, there's things outside of your control, but people have two different attitudes. They've either got the attitude where it wasn't my fault, it was somebody else's, or they're going to lean towards the attitude of self-reflection. And I think it's, I hate to say, but you got to interview for that. They come in with that. The being willing to internalize why they didn't make their quota or why a sale wasn't made is, I think, pretty important.
To finish us off, Gina, what is one piece of advice you'd give our viewers to maintain long-term work in a cyclical industry?
The thing about cyclical industries is they're cyclical. They've been around for a long, long time, and they're going to have their ups and they're going to have their downs. And so my advice would be stick with it. Be patient. Yes, there are going to be the lows, but you know that the industry is then going to bounce back and there are going to be the highs. And all along the path, you're just going to get smarter and smarter and better at what you do. And so you might be able to mitigate the lowness of the lows and truly, truly take advantage of the highness of the highs. Industries that have been around forever and are going to be around forever, there's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of money to be made. Stick with it. Patience, please.
Thank you so much, Gina, for being here today.
You're welcome. It was such a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
That was a great conversation and a powerful reminder that while markets may change, strong careers are built on skills, discipline, and long-term thinking. Now we want to hear from you. What matters more in this industry? Timelines or sustainability? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode. Until next time, take care, stay informed, and let's continue growing together.